Welcome back to High Flyers in STEM, Greatness Has No Gender, the podcast where we dive into the inspiring stories of women in STEM who are breaking barriers and defying expectations. I'm your host, Deirdre Finnerty. Joining me today is Vivienne McNulty and Honora Egan, Innovation Managers at Hollister Incorporated. This episode explores how a passion for STEM can ignite through sudden inspiration or hands-on experience, and how many of us are faced with moments of self-doubt, particularly when stepping into leadership roles. These ladies have the support of an exceptional company, Hollister Incorporated, who is a proud employee-owned global medical device company and pioneer in promoting gender equality, reflected in their impressive 40% female employee representation at their Mayo site alone. Thank you again to our sponsors Finero, a multi-award-winning company that specialises in financial success for contractors, freelancers and solopreneurs. So let's dive in and hear more. Welcome to the show, Vivienne and Honora. Honora and Vivienne, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast of Greatness Has No Gender. Delighted that you could come on site with us today and have a quick chat about your career, where you started, how it's going, where the kind of future will lie, and talk a little bit about ED&I and Hollister and what great initiatives are happening there as well. So I suppose I'd love to start things off about maybe chatting about how you got started in your careers in the first place. So Honora, if you want to kind of chat me through, did you take the traditional route or?
No, my route was very squiggly at the start. I suppose when I finished school, I liked art in school and liked Irish. So actually when I left school, my first choice I got offered was Irish and Trinity. Bit of a difference.
Very different.
Yeah, so when I got the offer in the post, I was like, I just knew it wasn't for me. I just took a gap year then after I left school and kind of, this is back when it was books, prospectus, CAO, and it was literally the night before the CAO was due the following year. I came across product design and it was the first year of it in DIT and it was just a light bulb moment then. So it had a little bit of art, a little bit of business and a little bit of engineering, and that's kind of where I loved. I liked a little bit of everything and how it all connected. That's kind of how I started off, and then once I started in DIT I just loved it and knew it was where I should be, and then continued on from there. Then left college and got a job in a design consultancy in Dublin and was there for 13-14 years, and then went back to do my masters after that, and then went to Hollister last year, so moved back to Mayo and joined Hollister, and that's kind of an overview of how I got into STEM and from the start and to where I am today.
So different. So basically going through a perspective, found your course.
Yeah.
That's got you to an RD position today.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was. And it was just kind of alignment and timing and taking that year. Like I know a lot of people, and there's some of my friends, like one friend in particular, he always wanted to be a doctor and his line was like so straight that there is a lot of pressure, I think, when you leave school to know what you want to do. And a lot of people don't, and they kind of might go into a path where they aren't necessarily happy. So it was a bit that me and one of my really good friends, the two of us knew what we were doing wasn't for us. So it was nice to have someone to kind of be in the same position as we as well, which did help. But it was nice that I suppose even though I was young, I still had that courage, I suppose, to know what was right and what wasn't right for me at that stage.
And you probably felt that gap year really stood to you.
100%, yeah. And I learned how to cook that year as well. So
key learning.
Spent a lot of time cooking and feeding myself. So so definitely another skill.
Another life skill.
Yeah.
No, and it's brilliant. And as you said, to know to take the year out to figure out what was right rather than just doing something because you got it.
Exactly.
So it's really good. Yeah. And Viv, did you have something similar or?
I think there's very special people out in the world who know exactly what they want to do and they finish the Leaving Cert, and but the reality is most of us don't. So I was quite similar, and I knew I liked fixing things and doing things. Like I think the big thing to watch out for when you're that age is what you enjoy. Is it art? Is it like I always fix things at home. I did that with my dad, and like I was lucky when I was in transition year. My dad asked his mechanic if I could do my work experience there, and his mechanic took me under his wings and like had me servicing cars and doing work even beyond the transition year. Like I still go back, and I got a love for engineering and that side of things. So when I came to that, like after the Leaving Cert and applying, I went for automation engineering in DIT, and I did that for first year. And I was like, you know what, it's not quite for me. And I went and talked to the career guidance people at DIT and was able to switch into mechanical engineering. So you don't get it right the first time. Yeah. Like you can move, there is good supports, and it is like you're not stuck. And I did that, and I did, like, I struggled with college. I think coming from school, to then go into a college environment. For me, I was kind of quite reluctant. I just wanted to get out working. And I'd say a lot of people feel that way too. And I completed the course and I worked in a shoe shop for 2 years.
Okay.
Not using my degree whatsoever. I ended up injuring my shoulder and I was like, you know what, maybe this is a sign I need to maybe look at what I've studied and do something. So I did an internship in Dom and Design and as a design engineer and upskilled and learned that way. And I was there for 3 years before going back and doing my master's, the same as Honora in NCAD on medical device design and then onto Hollister. So it's never really straightforward how you get to places, but you do find your way. You just have to be patient. Yeah, sometimes take a break, take a gap year, or go work in a shoe shop for a few years
to really figure out what you want.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no pressure because you have your life ahead of you.
Yeah. And when you did your internship, was that a paid internship or did you go in?
It was through JobBridge. So yeah,
that was good 3 months, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was around that, and then kept me on after, which was brilliant. And yeah, to say the things you learned in there was amazing because design consultancy, you get exposure to so many different types of projects. So they work on everything from like baby equipment to things with Diageo and like beer taps, so you got to try everything. And it was through that then that I got exposure to the medical devices.
I was just going to say, would that help you make your decision for the masters? Yeah,
exactly. And then I was like, you know what, this is what I want to go into because it really resonated with me. And I looked in and found about the masters and decided, I'm going to leave the job and go do this, focus on this for the year.
Yeah, and it's the impact you make then of saving lives, isn't it? When you look at the different type of things you can work on and you go, okay, I can massively make a difference here on this. Yeah. So that's really, really good. Yeah. So not the traditional path, but here at the end.
That's it, exactly. I think most people don't have a traditional path, if you ask them like that, sometimes their degree is in something and they're working in a completely different industry. I think we're just kind of led to believe that everyone kind of knew what they wanted to do and it's worked out that way. But I'd say 90% of people have a squiggly line and ended up with how they ended up and where they are now.
But you're nearly a better leader or a better engineer because of it, aren't you?
100%.
Okay, brilliant. So I suppose when we talk about where you've got to today, do you think luck exists in career? Like, is it about being in the right place at the right time, or do you think you forge your own path in relation to that?
I think there is a small bit of luck, but I think then when you think about it, essentially it's down to your hard work and putting yourself out there as well, that when you do put a bit of work and effort in or expose yourself, which is never easy for anyone, that things start to fall into place and you think it's luck, but if you look back, it's down to what you've done. So I suppose when I finished my undergrad in product design, the industry was a lot smaller than it was, and it was hard to get a job. But I remember printing out my CV, printing out my portfolio, posting it, then following up with phone calls and emails, and then getting my job. Whereas you're like, oh, I'm so lucky, but you're like, look at all the work I actually put in and then got my job. So in one way, it's small bit of luck, small bit of right place, right time, but essentially you have to put that groundwork in for the luck to find you.
Yeah, like the opportunity has to be there, but as you said, luck can only bring you so far. Exactly. You've got to have the hard work done behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And would you agree with that, Vivienne?
I would, yeah. And I think surround yourself with good people and people that will help kind of lift you up and say, you know, why don't you apply for that job? Like, be brave. Like, why not? So like, I think you need those people in your life to go, you know what, the opportunity is there. Don't be shy about going for it, because that's where we tend to hesitate and go, we don't have the qualifications, or we haven't ticked all those boxes, and you could be great for that job. I think there's an element to that too. You need good people around you.
Yes. Yeah. And it's about, maybe having 70 to 80%, but I can learn the other 30%,
Yeah, exactly. I think women were really hard on ourselves like that. We won't apply for a job unless we can do nearly 90%, whereas the guy will look at it and mightn't even read the context, just see the title and apply and be so underqualified. So it's definitely something I see a difference between guys and girls doing that. Guys will apply, whereas women, I suppose, nearly feel like we should be 100% qualified before we apply for a role. So that's something we need to stop doing as well and apply for them if we are at that 70 or 80%.
That's our voices in our own head, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the time, but as you said, that someone tapping you on the shoulder say go for that position, or absolutely you can do it, is really important. So I suppose, has there been people in your life that have really kind of helped you get to the next level? Really good mentors maybe, or colleagues and that has kind of lifted you up and said go for that? Or
yeah, I suppose, friends and family as well are part of that network of people around you. I think sometimes they kind of push you when you might be lacking in confidence, or like that when you're struggling between those gaps between jobs, or like that not utilising your degree, that they're the ones who kind of are like, no, go for it, push it. So you need that baseline support. And then, so the company I worked with after my undergrad, like I stayed with them for 13, 14 years. I started as an intern, and there's a great support structure there and very encouraging and very like, you can do this, just believe in yourself. So it was really nice that I had that and developed my confidence and developed my skill set. And it's the same since I started in Hollister. Like, everyone's so open to ask questions and to help you, and there's a great network there of training. Like, we've so much training that we can utilize as well. So it's great to have that kind of backup when you do maybe date yourself or know that you're not strong enough in a certain skill, that there's facilities there to help for improve your skill set within Hollister as well.
And that's key, isn't it, as you kind of grow in your career, is identifying those gaps and knowing where to go to fill them, to get that development. Yeah. So that's really good that they're there. Do you ever get like imposter syndrome, or your inner voices? They can be wild, I know. What do they say? Trust me, mine can be too. Has that kind of held you back, or how do you manage that, or help it maybe push you forward?
I've definitely had it. Like, yeah, I think we all do, and men and women alike. It is definitely an inner voice. And I combat it by having another inner voice that reassures and goes, do you not? Like, say when I got this role that I'm in now, and when I first started, and I could be so hard on myself at times. And I think part of the problem was I was comparing myself to others that had huge amounts of experience. And I was like, sure, I wouldn't be able to handle that. I couldn't do that. And then the other voice would go, but they have like 10 years experience. So why are you comparing yourself to that? And you didn't lie in your interview. You didn't say you had all this experience. So why are you being so hard on yourself now? They have hired you knowing that you still need to learn all this. So don't start going and getting like annoyed or getting really anxious about the fact that you don't know it, because you're meant to be learning. Like, that's part of the job with this. So you're setting too high an expectation on yourself and no one else is putting that on you. So you have to combat yourself a lot and give yourself grace and say, do you know what? Once you start seeing yourself comparing yourself or doing things like that and really putting yourself down, you need to go, no, stop that. That's not the right voice. But it's hard. We all have it. And again, it's surrounding yourself with people that you go, do you know, am I doing an alright job? Is this okay? And like, we're just bouncing things off each other. Like, definitely helps. Because you can get into your own head so easily.
That peer support, isn't it? Going, well, there's 10 things, you might know how to do one, but you've nailed the other 9.
Exactly.
I think that's really important. As you said, the two voices nearly combating each other.
Yeah.
To gotta help you move forward with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think realising everyone does themselves. Everyone, you're like, look at some senior managers who are great in presentations or in like difficult situations maybe, and then chatting to them afterwards, and they're also hard on themselves. So I think once you realise that everyone does it, and everyone kind of doubts themselves at some stage, it kind of reassures you and going, oh, I'm not going crazy actually. So I think talking to people about it and realising that everyone does it at some stage also is reassuring. It kind of helps you try and shut up that voice sometimes.
Yeah, I know. And do you find yourselves kind of in your positions, it's important for people in your teams to maybe be real and authentic with them and let them know that, I still have these voices. Yeah. I still have these doubts sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like that, just being honest and open. We're always learning in our roles. No matter what role you're in, there's always aspects that you might have done before, or you might have only done once or twice before and you're not 100% comfortable with. So I think it's good to show your team that you are still learning as well, and you are vulnerable at times where there might be parts that you don't know. So then I think it makes them more comfortable to ask maybe for help when they're struggling, and to just see that, okay, you are doing a great job, but you are also parts that you don't know 100% about, and times when you do maybe question yourself or doubt yourself, but that you can kind of move through that and get it and move on to the next stage.
And within Hollister, do you have mentors yourselves that you turn to for your own development and to bounce off with that?
Yeah. So we have a mentor program, and I have formal and informal mentors.
Yes.
So I have formal mentors. I have female and kind of male ones who have been brilliant and that are in different positions, but kind of higher positions. So just to hear their story and how they've moved around and get their advice. Yes. And different perspectives has been brilliant. And then even just, there's people in there, and they're kind of part of your support system as well, but like you turn to them for a bit of advice and you just go, hey, do you mind grabbing a coffee? And talk to different people. Like it's good networking anyway, but to find out, like, because everyone feels the same. And I think it's always really scary moving into a new role or moving into a new department, but people have done it before. So chatting to them and saying, how did you do it? How did you manage this? Or how did you manage family life and that? So, like, people being curious, you might as well learn from each other.
I think, and that's really important what you said about formal and informal. So you'll always have your structured path, but sometimes there'll be just someone you'll identify with, won't you? Or you'll gravitate towards that you can just bounce off if you're having one of those days. Yeah. or you're going for a promotion or a new job or a new department, as you say. So it's great to have both there.
And that's a great thing about Hollister, that everyone's really open to have those chats. I know in some other companies, like the higher levels are maybe a bit more closed door, whereas in Hollister, director, VP, everyone's open to have those 10-minute chats over a coffee. So it's really nice that culture within Hollister, that no matter who you want to talk to, that they'll be open to have a coffee with you and have a sit down and chat with you. So it's really nice that it puts you at ease that there is that network of people that you can ask those questions to.
And probably not just site-based, but globally.
Yeah. One of my mentors is based in the States.
Okay.
And you just do a Teams call and it's great, like.
Yes, and COVID made the world so much smaller, but those team calls are great, aren't
exactly.
they? So it's really, really good. Have you I know from speaking with you both, and there's a lot of really clever initiatives around DT&I in Hollister, and I suppose that's why we're here, kind of great to have gender and about equity and diversity and all that. So I know there's a lot of things, and one of the really good stats that there's 41% females versus 59% in Hollister in Ballina, which is really good, and it's growing. So, and I know the worldwide stats, and I was talking to you girls earlier and you were saying about it's 34%. So you're really kind of ahead of the curve there, which is great to see and moving in the right direction. Is there anything else kind of really exciting that's part of the initiatives?
There's actually a whole host of things they've been doing for a few years now, or quite a few years now. We have what we call a WIN group. It's the Women's Initiative Network, and they have done different events. Like I think it was last year they did a big STEM event with over 600 kids from local schools. So they were young kids and then transition year boys and girls. Everyone came together and we were teaching them about what we do, but then different types of science and things like that. We had Dr. Nora Patton in, so she's from Ballina, but she's a massive advocate for STEM. She is working towards being the first Irish astronaut, commencing in 2026. It's really impressive. I think she was on the Late Late Show recently. And she's really inspirational to hear from someone who has, she knew what she wanted to do from a young age, but she has driven that path and she's made a big difference for women in going towards that. So her speaking at the event was amazing. Amazing for us all to meet her. She's an inspiration in Ireland and especially in Ballina as one of us. But yeah, it was great to have that many people at it at the event, and hopefully if we can impact or make a difference in just a few of their lives and show women working in engineering that maybe they'll go, this isn't just a boys' field.
No, not at all. And I think someone was talking earlier about like the moms and teachers, that we put them into certain categories of boxes, isn't it? And you have to be careful of the dialogue you use. And it's more, everything's open to everyone. And clearly, like, it's the best person for the job. But the fact that it's a level playing field is just so important.
Yeah. We were talking about it in the car this morning. We were reading the report on how they're obviously trying to implement this in schools at an earlier stage. And that seems to be key. There's a lot less exposure to subjects beyond just kind of the science or colour
subjects,
Whereas in the boys' school it was something like 97%. The girls it was
63%.
Yeah. So it just, but if you can get that earlier, like of course it's going to seem like boys are better at that and it's a boys subject if it's only in boys' schools. So it's definitely, if we can start addressing it earlier and going, do you know what, it's not a boys subject, like it's for everyone. Then you can start then evening things out as people progress.
And I think Honora, speaking again, art, you know, this book about art, and you wouldn't necessarily put it with engineering.
No.
Like I know my daughter, she's 10 and she's an awful messer, but she loves art and stuff everywhere. But you wouldn't necessarily think they tie in so well to product development.
Exactly. And I suppose, like art and Lego and all that. You are kind of creating this through art as well, but you don't really think. But then when you kind of sit down and think about what you actually like, it's more the creativity and open-mindedness from the art that you kind of take through into the more structured engineering settings. So I think it gives you a good basis and you're kind of a bit more open-minded maybe if you come from that angle into it. I think it definitely stands to you. You have some nice standoffs with the engineers sometimes, but that's all part of it, you know. And trying to discuss and negotiate to make both happy, but sometimes you can be a bit more open-minded about problems and how to maybe approach certain problems or certain aspects of a project.
A bit more creative, Honora. Take that to the engineering team. No, but I absolutely agree. It's the younger, the earlier you start, the more exposure you get. early into everybody, both men and women, from whatever you want to get into. It just opens the mind. There's so much more to it, and so many more different ways of getting into stuff now, that even after college, as you said, you can diversify so much more. So that's really good. I suppose when we talked about, you do a lot of ERG groups in Hollister as well.
Like, we have a lot of different things, and I know, as we talked about with schools there, the hiring process is an interesting one too. And a lot of people have that unconscious bias. That's where we need to be more conscious of it. So I know with Hollister, the HR and the people leaders all do training every year about that and ways to kind of combat it. And they put in processes as well to help combat it too. So when there's interviews, they try to have a diverse interview panel. So you'll have a male and a female, which definitely makes a big difference. They have standardized screenings. Everyone's treated the same. But they're also sourcing candidates from outreach programs. They do the Holly Ed, which is tuition assistance for people actually in Hollister, and it just gives them further education to upskill. It's brilliant. Like,
is that open to everyone?
So that's for hourly, but there's stuff for staff. They do a tuition assistance, but they are all about us upskilling and growing and learning. Yeah, and the amount of courses and options, like a big thing for me that I did recently, I did the crucial conversations training and influencing without authority.
Oh, yeah.
But they're really good because I always am like, well, okay, where am I most uncomfortable at the moment? And that's what I need to work on. And it's those hard conversations because I don't like confrontation. So like being able to just, I'll be like, I want to focus on this area, and then going, yep, there's this training, it's online, and you just do it in your own time, or there's different bits like that. It makes such a difference in how I can work, and it gives me confidence then to have those conversations. So yeah, they're really supportive in those ways to help build everyone up.
Yes, and I think they're key. And you talk about the HR training and unconscious bias, but that's been led down to the whole company, to all hiring managers, isn't it, in Hollister? Yeah. And that's great because it brings that, I suppose, openness to the hiring process. And you're very much involved locally in national schools and secondary schools, and speaking with women and kids and young females trying to getting into the STEM area, which is really good.
Well, we have about, I think it's up to about 10 school visits a year into us, and we'll show them the R&D lab and talk to them about it all and show them the factory floor and everything. So as much exposure and as much kind of help we can give to showing females kind of what it's like. Yeah, we really do try to have the females there to say, look, we're in the role. It's not just, you're not just walking into a room full of men kind of working in this, because everyone has that fear. It's like what it's going to be like, but it's not. It's not at all.
But we're also at full employment. So whatever we can do to attract people early in their careers, or even before they make those decisions, to attract them to STEM is really good. Yeah, regardless of their gender. We need the best people entering the workforce, and what you're doing to attract them very early, get them interested in it, is really good. I suppose when we think about the now, tell me about how they've supported you the most. Like, obviously, you've got HR and you've got your mentors. Do you feel then that you can give back and support other people within your organisation as well? Do you find yourselves being mentors now at the moment too?
Yeah, like I find even for the two of us, so we sit next to each other and we're the same role, we bounce off each other a lot in terms of going, I'm having this issue, or what do you think of this? And the group of girls we have in R&D are brilliant. So we all celebrate the successes and push each other and say, go for it, why not? And be there when they need a rant as well. So you need a bit of a safe space. So I think you have to look out for each other and have each other's back too, and because it can be daunting at times. Every day isn't always great.
Yes, every day is a learning day.
Every day is a learning day, and when your confidence is a bit lower, some days you need each other to go, do you know what, you're doing a great job, just keep going. Yeah, you look after each other. I think that's key for me.
I suppose that brings me straight into kind of the core values then that are necessary within your roles, and they probably align to Hollister values and what's really important to you. What would you consider really important when you think of core value to help you make your decisions?
I think being honest essentially is the most important, like that, whether it's a good decision or a bad decision or like a difficult decision. I think once you're honest, and that if your team see you being vulnerable or struggling with certain aspects, it shows that you're a real person as well.
So authentic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then they can relate to that. And then if they see you like that, then they might be more willing to come to you with a problem quicker if they know that you're going to sit down and be kind of open and honest with them. So I think then if people see that early from your team, that it makes things run smoothly, because like that, everything won't be smooth. There'll be ups and downs. So it's better to know about a problem today than to leave it out till 2 weeks when it's a crucial problem then. So I think if you're honest and open, then it makes it better for people to come to you and to approach you like that, as I said, whether it's something good or bad. Like it is, as we've said, important to celebrate the wins as well as the kind of difficult moments as well. So I think for me, honesty is the most important as a manager and just as an employee in Hollister. And again, their values that resonate with the company as well and are part of the culture. And you can see that every day when you're in work. It's definitely part of the core of the business.
So, and that's your personal core values that align all the way through, don't they? And Vivienne, what would you consider, I suppose, the most important core values?
I'd be similar enough. Like for me, the big thing is the user, the person who uses our product, and the dignity with them and making a difference for them. So like when you think back to when you are at school age and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, and I was like, I like fixing things, but I also did a lot of volunteering and I loved helping people and working with people. So when you look back, you're going, do you know what, this makes perfect sense. And when I got the job in Hollister, like I had this job because I knew about Hollister. I'd interacted with them before, and I went to them, and I moved from Dublin 6 years ago to work here for this reason. It wasn't just I want to work in a medical device.
Didn't see a job for a job spec and go for it.
Yeah, like I can easily, like there's so many places you could have gone by. It was like, you know, I really like what Hollister stand for, because their core values are the same as mine. But what's different about them is they're employee owned. So a lot of the big multinationals aren't, and they would possibly have a little bit less control than we do in terms of we can put our foot down and go, do you know what, this isn't right. And what's big with Hollister is the dignity of the person, and first class is best. So that resonated with me, that it was a company that I want to work with. And I knew then when you have the hard days, your motivation comes from your core values. So you need to find a company that aligns with that. And yeah, I think there's something different about Hollister with that, with the culture and the people. I know people talk about it all the time, having great cultures and companies, but the people do make a difference too. That was what I sought out for with the jobs, and those would be my values.
Yeah, and the retention in Hollister is super. So
So we've had 2 women retire recently who've been there for 46 years. Yeah. So wow, it's amazing to see. And like that, one of them, their career was pretty straight line within Hollister, but then other people within Hollister moved departments, moved roles, moved from manager. And so it's great to see even within Hollister, there's that flexibility to move between departments and move. So although you're in the same company, you have that career development within the company as well.
I was just going to say, it's not necessarily always a step up. Sometimes it can be a step across for development, can't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And like that, within a different department, you're always learning new skills. And although you might have worked with different departments before, when you're in that department full time, there's a whole other, I suppose, bucket of things to learn. But it's good to see it from different perspectives. And I suppose then why certain things certain departments ask for, or why they think that is a priority, whereas you mightn't agree with them. So it's great that we have that on site as well, so we can kind of all say what our priorities are and then argue about them and try and
find common ground.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, really good. Looking back at your career, have you ever thought, God, that was a very hard lesson to learn, or how did that shape you? Or we probably all look back and go, I'd have changed that at the time, but looking back now, there was a reason for it. Is there anything that stands out?
I suppose, yeah, just tough times, like whether it be with clients or whether a project running off schedule or running over budget. They're kind of the 3 buckets that would stick out in your mind. But then when you look back, you learn so much from them, and you kind of have to have those difficult times to improve your skill set or to learn what's the best way to deal with it. I know one client in particular a few years ago, again, it wasn't an area I was it was on a box, the artwork was wrong on a box, and I remember him giving out to me for it, but like it wasn't my speciality. He was supposed to improve it, but again, from learning from that, it was how to deal with the client, then how to double check things, and if it is something that you weren't sure of, then to get someone who is an expert in it and not to be afraid to ask for that help or double checking. So then you do learn and kind of take those learnings from those really hard times. So I think although you don't like when you're in it and it's difficult, especially if it's confrontation or having difficult conversations, that you do learn from it, and you kind of need it to progress as a people leader or for yourself to develop and to learn from them. So you do need them, although they are hard, and just every once in a while they're okay to show their head, but you do need them to kind of learn how to deal with them and to move on and grow.
Yeah. Would you agree, Vivienne, and particularly that sticks out with you?
Yeah, like what sticks out with me, I think probably a lot of people faced during COVID were kind of getting near burnout. And it was down to a few reasons on a busy project and everything. Kind of my personality is a bit of an overachiever. And when you're in the office and you're working as normal, 5 o'clock rolls around and people start getting up and leaving. And then you finish up and you go home and you go for lunch together. Whereas when I was working from home then, it was such a different scenario that I didn't have those natural stopping points. Suddenly I'd be working and I'd be like, oh my God, it's 3 o'clock and I haven't taken lunch. Or, oh my God, it's 7 o'clock and I'm still working. And things like that were just, they weren't healthy. And like for me as well, I got to a point where I was like, there's so much work to do and I can't do it all. And I'm trying to do it all. And I felt like if I said I can't do this, then I'm a failure. Because then I've got you've got this imposter syndrome going, like, this is your job, you have to be able to do it. But I'm like, I can't physically do this amount of work. And then one day I was just like, I need to talk to my manager and just be like, do you know what? I need some extra help. Quite out of character for me, but it was a big lesson. I said it to him and he was like, great, yeah, that's no problem. And he was like, but that my job is to resource the project. I need you to communicate. If there's too much work and you need extra resources, tell me, because it's better than you getting burnt out because then you're no good to us.
Yes.
And it's better than the project timeline slipping because you didn't communicate. It's fine if there's tons of work, but you need to say it. So that was a huge lesson for me. It's like, do you know what? It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, do you know what? I can't do it all. And yeah, I choose the relief after that call. And going, so why didn't I do this sooner? Honest to God, what was I thinking? And it's just in your head.
We talk about the crazy, don't we? And I think that working from home, we felt like we had to be on all the time. Yeah, the green light had to be on. So we do, and as you said, just asking for help sometimes, you know. And we to let it get to that point.
Yeah, and sometimes your manager's nearly waiting for you to ask for help. They know that you're overstretched, and then when you do have that conversation, you're like, why didn't I do this 2 weeks ago? You know, so yeah, and like that, everyone needs help at some stage. So I think we need to make it more acceptable and more normal to ask for help when we're struggling and not leave it like that and struggle for too long.
But it comes back to the authenticity that you spoke about. You know, I think if your team see that you can put your hand up and ask for help, they're more able and willing to do it too.
Yeah.
What advice would you like to share with our listeners about kind of pursuing a career in STEM? And we've spoken a lot about it already, but any other little nuggets?
I think like that, if they can get into companies or that family friends or someone to get a little bit of exposure to the real life day to day, even if they're in school and not a working or internship age, find a company or find someone. I know I've had friends of friends and friends of friends ring me and ask for advice and kind of go through my career or even help with certain programs or packages that they're interested in. So don't be afraid to ask, I think, is the main advice I'd give. And if it is something you're interested in from an early age, like that, ask as early as you can, and maybe it is for you or maybe it isn't. But I think once you start asking and getting that feedback from people in the industry, you'll get an idea of what it's really like and that you do like it. And then if you start earlier, then you'll get more exposure to people. And then even throughout college, if you can get internships during the summer. And again, it's back to putting yourself out there a bit, which none of us like doing, and it isn't easy. But the more exposure you get and the more exposure you get to different industries or different projects within the industry you're interested in, then the more you'll learn and the better you will be then when you do finish college and go out into the working world.
I'd say the same as that, and sometimes look at what your parents or your family do as a job. And I know we fight it as well, being like, I don't know, I'm not good at that. But usually you've inherited some of those inherent skills, like you're really into art or you're really into certain things like that. It may not be the same job, but go to work with them one day or have a good conversation. What does your day-to-day work look like? If you could do something else, what would you do? And maybe use that as a bit of a baseline too. We've said it throughout this, is be authentic. I know when you're in school, sometimes it's like, oh, it's probably not going to be as cool doing some certain subjects. But you know what? It's better to be yourself. People respect that more than following the crowd. And in the future, you'll be so much happier if you've gotten that skill set or you're doing something then that actually you really enjoy. And just be brave. Have a good group around you and be brave and go for things. Talk yourself up instead of talking yourself down. Quieten that inner voice. And
don't be afraid to leave the crowd for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I wish I could talk to myself 30 years ago. And
I know.
It's so true. Well, yeah, look at it. I really enjoyed our chat. I think we've spoken a lot about your career, your development. You've given huge advice. I think what's really good is that, there's so many different ways to get into what you want to do. And I think if we bring anything across to young people wanting to get into STEM, it is that you don't have to know everything right now. There's so many opportunities in different ways of getting to do what you want, and if you enjoy the subjects, go do them. It'll never feel like work, it will in COVID, but it will be really good. So thank you both for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having us.
That's it for today's episode of Greatness Has No Gender podcast with Hollister Incorporated. We're excited to have you join us next week as we chat with Fiona King and Anne-Marie Beglin from Cook Medical. Once again, I'm going to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, Finero. Don't forget to like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Your support helps us shine a light on these impactful stories and inspires more women and young girls to chase their dreams in STEM. Until next time, stay fearless in your pursuit to embrace every opportunity life presents.